10, 9, ignition sequence start. 6.
Hello and welcome to Rocket Fuel, your daily update of everything that's happening in the Rocket Fuel community. My name is Wack. Today is July 5th and I pressed record to start recording the episode, and then about 20 minutes in I realized that I didn't actually press record, so none of it had been recording. So my energy levels are a little bit lower now, so I'm sorry if I'm a little bit rushed in this episode or if I don't go into the detail that I was actually going into, but sorry guys. Anyway, let's start with this continuation from a thread from yesterday. So we had this comment from Jasper saying the Rocket team is designing our own bespoke on-chain voting system instead of using Aragon. This lowers third-party dependencies and gives us flexibility to keep using quadratic voting for RPL stake. No DAO can compare, especially not run by a handful of VCs. Marko says, wait, what? How on earth is spending the only smart contract dev that Rocket Pool has on rebuilding a governance tool that already exists works the right idea as opposed to scaling the protocol? So what happened here then is that sparked a huge discussion on the Discord, and see, all my links are messed up now too, so sorry about that. Let's see if it works. Yes, okay, great. So Kane says, I've drafted up an idea and done viability testing. Oh wait, here we go. No, I did get it wrong. Yeah, here you go. So Kane says we're in the research phase of a number of different features, including... No, that's not right, see? Okay, yes, that is right. Okay, so Kane says we're in the research phase of a number of different features, including scaling and increasing decentralization. The details will go out and the community will be able to decide on what priorities are. We've already taken the temperature, and decentralizing the PDAO was high on the list of things people want. So that's right. I think what happened is people didn't really understand what the voting system kind of meant and what it was going to work as. So Kane says the thing I've been spending time on are oDAO reduction, PDAO replacement, scaling, efficiency improvements, e.g. megapools. So Kane's going to give here some more information on what the governance tool is, and he says that he's drafted up the idea and done viability testing on the system that would implement the current off-chain governance system on-chain to remove the team's position as a middleman for executing the will of the PDAO. Now, what does this mean exactly, right? So right now, the governance system works like this. If someone wants to change something about Rocket Pool, first you kind of talk about in trading a little bit. You don't have to do that. Then you go to the forum where you make a post, right? Kind of explaining what it is you want changed, how you want it changed, what the impact of that change is going to be, why you think it's important. People then kind of like respond to that back and forth. They have some messages, like, share ideas. Some of that happens in trading, some of that happens on the forum. And then you do like a temperature check on the forum to say, this is, what we want to do. Like, what do you think? And then if enough people say that this is a good idea, then it goes into an RPIP. Now, RPIPs are Rocket Pool improvement proposals, and in there, there's an idea of what's going to be changed, how it's going to be changed, and who's doing the change. Once all that document is written out, at that point, you can get community feedback on that and some input in that, but that's then going to go to a snapshot vote, and snapshot vote works by all the stakers in Rocket Pool have voting power, and they can go to the snapshot page, vote.rocketpool.net, and they can vote their preference on that. Kind of like is what's happening at the moment, that you've seen that I covered yesterday and the day before. So that's kind of the process right now. Once that vote passes, however, depending on what the vote is, the execution of that doesn't happen with the community on chain. There's a wallet account owned by the team, and that is the wallet that executes that. So that's kind of like a man in the middle, and then that gets put onto chain and the parameters get changed depending on the will of the community. So that is a centralizing force that's kind of like at the heart of Rocket Pool right now, and people rightly don't want that there because it's a centralizing force, and they want to remove that if possible. So that's kind of where we stand with the governance and why that's a centralizing force. Now, Kane, what he's doing is working on a system where that voting will go on-chain instead of being off-chain, and then there'll be no need for the man in the middle execution of that by the team. It would get executed automatically on chain, and the changes would happen at the will of the PDAO instead at the will of the Guardian. That's the wallet who can make those changes right now. So Kane goes into a lot of detail here, talking about how there's no tool currently that solves that problem, because almost every other DAO works by a simple balance. So like if you have X token, X amount of Y token, then that's your voting power for that. However, Rocket Pool is kind of different because our voting power is only given to node operators based on the amount of RPL they have staked that is effective, and that is then a square root of that to kind of do some quadratic easing, and half of that again. So the difference between Rocket Pool and other DAOs is this ability of only node operators to be able to vote, and then there being a quadratic vote after that as well. So there's no tool, like Kane says over here, there's no existing tool that solves that problem. And Kane then goes on to say, he's just getting some ideas together, and people kind of started talking about it without having the full information. So there might be elements of not understanding and why the importance of this is. What the importance of this is, and when the roadmap discussions were happening a few months ago now, right after Atlas, one of the main things that people said was they want the PDAO to be the oDAO to be curtailed, and the PDAO to be more decentralized, and that is that's become some of the priorities for the team, and talking about how to get past the Guardian, basically. So this was a really interesting discussion here. Kane said the challenge is that just about every other DAO in existence uses pure token balance for voting power. If that's what we want, there are plenty of existing tools that can be dropped in, but our governance system is designed so that each node operator holds the power. This makes governance capture much more difficult and gives power to the operators most aligned with the long-term views of the protocol. With a token balance model, the power resides with the speculators instead. So that's where that point was coming from. And Kane says right now we have the effective RPL stake voting power system, and it can only work because it's done off chain, and it requires the team to act as executive man in the middleman to enact treasury payments, etc. There's a way to bring it on chain, but it's not compatible with any existing tool out there because nobody else does it like we do. So options are spend the time building the tool or adopt a simpler governance model, and no one wants a simpler governance model. Everyone's happy with the way that Rocket Pool does it. Kane says I've designed from a high level how such a system would work on chain and built a proof of concept, which I'll post some information on that very soon. And yeah, let's see what Kane said, right? So here, and that's where we are right now. So let's go to GitHub here. He released the whole research piece, said PDAO replacement research, and he says the PDAO has two primary roles within the Rocket Pool. The first is having control over certain parameters which define how the protocol operates, enabling, disabling deposits, or setting the inflation rate. The second role is spending treasury funds. A portion of RPL inflation is sent to a contract which PDAO has the power to spend. So here, there's all these headings like the title, and then overview of on-chain voting, delegated voting power, overruling delegate advantages, disadvantages, treasury management council, and then there's technical information about submitting a proposal, submitting a fraud proof, and then delegate extension, and that's where it finishes. So there's a whole lot of work that's gone into this, clearly from the team and from Kane as well, and then Jasper did a really good job over here. Oh, actually, we're not talking to Jasper just yet. We're going to get to Jasper soon. Oh yeah, here. So we did get to Jasper. So Jasper's here got a tweet thread. Wait, actually, that is not right. See, I messed up my links again. Let's see what we get. Oh yeah, so Dave came into trading as well then, and was really supportive of Kane, giving a huge shout out to Kane and kind of mocking Buddha at the same time, which went down really well. But he says, Kane deserves mad props for putting it into, working with our ideas so far. And he gave a shout out to Jasper as well, saying big shout out for articulating well in the Twitter thread, and that's not easy. Our current designs around on-chain PDAO. So now let's have a look at Jasper, what he's saying. And he's got a nice thread here that kind of goes through the whole of the GitHub page that I just shared with you a minute ago. He's saying huge shout out to Kane Wallman for releasing his research for on-chain rocket pool voting. And then this GitHub, he says there's no DAO like rocket pools. To participate, you must have staked RPL against the validator. The unique implementation does not work with any service thread. So he says background voting in the PDAO is not easy. You must have at least 8 ETH plus 2.4 ETH of RPL in order to participate. Speculators cannot vote as they are not aligned with the health of the protocol as users. This brings in high participation and engagement. The quadratic root is particularly interesting. The power of large whale holders is diminished by this calculation, but it also adds complexity. Rocket pool DAO votes protect minority voices and was worth preserving. Consider just how small a few wallets control other DAOs and how they vote. And he says, since Lido Finance community members were so eager to attack Rocket Pool for this topic just today, it's only fair to point out that the vast majority of their decentralization votes are decided by less than 5 wallets. No one will hold that power in the Rocket Pool PDAO. And then he goes on to say, with Rocket Pool's unique implementation requirements detailed, let's talk about what Kane has researched. It says to calculate the effective RPL stake, we could use snapshot user balances of both RPL and ETH. This is easy to do. The challenge lies in calculating the RPL voting quorum, as the sum of effective RPL cannot be calculated due to gas constraints of the loop required. However, Kane makes a salient observation. The protocol only needs to know the RPL stake on blocks with a DAO proposal. As such, we can require proposals to include Merkle sum tree commitment that sums RPL and have an optimistic fraud-proof system to check. PDAO proposals usually require some tokens to initiate. These RPL would be bonded to the proposal. If the attached Merkle tree is proven false during the proposal voting period, then the proposer's RPL will be paid to the reporter. Delegation is also complex due to gas limitations on chain. The above workaround can still apply, and DAO proposals will have to include information about the set of delegates in the tree. Further, we can allow delegators to disagree with their delegates' vote. They can overrule. This overrule function would require 2 voting periods. The second voting period would be for reviewing delegate votes to determine if you agree or not. And those that disagree will have the option to overrule. Advantages: this minimal change from the current system. This design would return all the novel functions of the PDAO, and it's fully on-chain. The design would remove the oDAO off-chain calculations, making Rocket Pool more decentralized and resilient. Disadvantage: higher gas costs and its complexity. And then we have information about the treasury, saying one of the major PDAO tasks is the monthly payment to the IMC and GMC. These payments would be costly in gas and time to do monthly with proposals. Instead, Kane recommends developing a treasury contract to handle one-off and recurring payments. So he's explaining how that system would work, and then responding to an emergency. Currently, with the team's wallet, the protocol circuit breakers can be flipped at any moment. This could be invaluable if the protocol is hacked. Switching to a pure on-chain takes away this ability, as proposals would take at least 1 week to pass. As a replacement, Kane recommends the creation of a security council. This council multi-sig will have a limited set of powers, and actions would only be temporary. All this council's actions could be undone by the PDAO. Circuit breakers are growing in the layer 2 world. The final section of Kane's wonderful report details the technical details of how to actually build the trees and submit fraud proofs. Such things are beyond Twitter threads, and if you care, you should really read the GitHub, to be honest. So you can go and have a look there. Key takeaways: Rocket Pool is moving the PDAO fully on chain. We can preserve the higher barrier voting requirements. Some additional work for treasury and added security may be needed. Once again, a huge shout out to Kane, who has been working on this research for a long time. Give the full GitHub repo a read and pop into Discord if you want to discuss it further. RETH, leader of this decentralization, making good on promises. So this is wonderful, and funnily enough, you don't see any Oh yeah, I did retweet it. Oh, sorry, that's me talking to myself over my previous recording. But yeah, anyway, this was really cool by Jasper putting together Kane's work. So kudos to you all for that, and I'm really excited about it. Frankly, like, I knew about the guardianship beforehand, but I never really had given it much serious consideration, even though, like, prominent members of the community had criticized it quite strongly in the past. But now that I understand it, I'm really excited about the changes that are coming. Okay, next we have this tweet from Jasper that is in response to this block article. So let's go and have a look at the block article and see what it says. So here it says Rocket Pool promises to fix centralization concerns related to pDAO. It says there's a quick take. Rocket Pool pledged to move towards full decentralization for its protocol DAO. pDAO governance unit. This came in response to pDAO's centralization concerns, which were flagged by competitor Lido Finance. So it says, in the face of recent scrutiny over governance unit protocol DAO, Rocket Pool, a prominent liquid staking project, has pledged to move towards full decentralization. This unfolded after Dimitri from competitor project Lido Finance flagged some issues within the pDAO. So there's like some mistakes with this article, frankly, which is sadly just the way it goes sometimes. But as you can see, like, the work that Kane has been putting into this has been going on for quite a long time, and there's very prominent members of the community who've been like talking about this being a huge priority for like literally 2 years, I think, like, or over a year and a half at least. And this is not a new thing, people have been talking about this for a really long time. So it's just a shame that it's kind of unfurled because of this message from revelation from Dimitri yesterday, and soapboxing by Chris Black. But this is like really cool work. So Jasper says, good article, but the author neglects to mention the one-of-one unique voting system that Rocket Pool uses in quadratic voting with high barrier to entry. This is the main reason why we could not go with on-chain without significant delay. The whole ecosystem will benefit from Rocket Pool's work. So that is true, right? Like, it's really exciting that any other protocols that want to use Rocket Pool system in the future will be able to use it, and they'll gain a lot from that as well, which is really cool. So let's move on to talking about actual votes that are happening already. So as you can see, my link is on the wrong page, but as you all know, there's 3 votes going on right now. There's the pDAO charter, there's the oDAO charter, and then there's the inflation and pDAO budget allocation. These 3 votes have all now reached quorum on Snapshot. So that means that the vote for the pDAO charter and the inflation and pDAO budget allocation votes have passed, with a caveat in that, there might be a huge number of votes that come in, but both are like at more than 99% approval. So you'd literally need 6,000 votes to come in to swing that vote, and the chances of that happening are non-existent. So I can say with some fair certainty that those votes have passed. Next we have the oDAO charter, which has been signaled by the community that they want that to pass, but that doesn't really carry any weight. What does carry weight here is which of the pDAO members are voting on chain, and in that sense we have 5 members who have currently voted. There's Superfizz, who voted for RPIP24, Lighthouse, Crypto Manufacturer, Rocket Scientists, and Beacon Chain. So they have all voted yes for this. So we need 10 votes from the oDAO to approve the oDAO charter. And once that's approved, then all 3 votes will be approved. 4 of the oDAO nodes are run by the team, so if they vote yes, then that will take us to 9 votes, and then I presume someone like Anthony Sassano, who's quite active in voting, will vote as the 10th person to give us majority, and then we will have all 3 of those votes will pass, which will be extremely exciting. So I'm really excited to see like what's going to come out of this going forward, because this is really a huge development for Rocket Pool, and kudos to Val for spearheading this whole movement. So thanks, Val, and thanks everyone who's voting. Okay, next we have this news from events, and here it's Marko and someone else staking 57,000 RPL worth 1,149 ETH, and then Marko also staked another 6,000 RPL as well. So what's happening here is that there are some mega whale nodes that are kind of like marriage nodes, and as the ratio has gone down by about 30% in the last month against ETH for RPL, what's happened is that a lot of balance that was previously effective, that was not effective, has become effective, and now there's also space remaining for adding more on those nodes to get it to 150%. So that's kind of like what Marko's seen here, and he is now adding the RPL that I guess have been rewards, sitting as rewards on those nodes, and restaking them to make sure that they are getting to closer to 150%, so these whales can get the bigger rewards. So it's really interesting to see that, look, just in these two transactions, that is 63,000 RPL, which is like 1,300 ETH worth of RPL has been staked and been made effective. That wasn't before. So that's going to be happening a lot, I think, this reward cycle, because the RPL ratios come down so steeply, so quickly, with 30% in a month, that a whole lot of people are going to find themselves out of position. And now they'll be working on getting back into position, so they'll be adding RPL collateral, and we've seen a slight move to the upside on the ratio since yesterday. So there might be a bunch of people who are buying at the last minute to get themselves into those positions. Okay, next we have this interesting piece of information from Alex here, who kind of explains how people are holding complementing tokens from protocols that have two tokens. So he started off with STETH and LDO. He says, let's see, how many of them hold both tokens, and there's 8,264 people who hold both of them, which is only about 5% of holders hold both of the tokens. And yeah, that's right. So then someone said, why compare 100y.eth said compare RETH and RPL. So then they went and compared that. Alex went and compared that. He says holders of either token, there are 23,000 holders of either token, and only 1,160 or thereabouts hold both of them, which is around 5% of holders hold both of those. And I think one of the reasons why that might happen is there's RPL on nodes that might get counted there, and then there's not really any RETH on those, but it seems like there's more RETH holders than there are RPL holders anyway. So it might be interesting to see about version 1 and version 2 there too. But it was nice that Alex shared the information. But this is really interesting. It says 25% of RETH holders also hold STETH, and 100y says more STETH holders should hold RETH. So this is a really nice little piece of information, just giving you some information about the dynamics between the different token holders on different protocols. But I thought I'd share that with you all because it looks pretty cool. Let's get back to Discord, and in Discord here we've got this piece of information saying Hodja here said that there's the last oDAO tree-gen guessing game will be open for guessing, like it's open to guessing right now basically, and it started this morning. So he says oDAO tree-gen guessing game is open for guesses for the rewards checkpoint occurring in about 17 hours. Of that is occurring in about 3.5 hours from now. Feel free to submit a guess. So Fizz then replied to that by saying, for your information, this will likely be the last guessing game where I offer a prize. We had a good run. So about 6 or 8 months ago, I think Fizz started offering 5 RPL a month for the person who would guess the most correct spaces in the guessing game. Hodja says, thanks for your generous support and of the game and the community of the past rewards checkpoints. Fizz, it's been a solid run, and there have been some memorably fun moments watching the tree gen come in. Fizz says, I really loved it and I certainly hope it continues. Hodja says, probably without the attention that your prizes generated for the tree gen process, patches might not have super optimized it to be done as quickly as in just a few minutes. And Fizz says, yeah, I also feel like it brought a lot of awareness from oDAO members to actually generate instead of setting their machines and forgetting them. I'm very happy for our success and I appreciate all of your work, Hodja. So this was like a nice back and forth that Hodja and Fizz had. And I really do want to say that they're totally understating the impact that this game has had on bringing attention to the tree generation. It's been a huge boon for like so many of the community members to be watching the tree generation every month, and that has put so many eyes on the tree generation that people, like Patches, of course, have been working on optimizing it so much. People have been generating their own trees, and of course, the other oDAO members have made that a priority. I remember when Anthony Sassano became a PDAO member, one of the first things he said was that he wants to win the guessing game. Of course, he hasn't won the guessing game, but the spirit was there, which was really exciting, and that definitely has like caused a shift in oDAO actions. So that was really cool. Okay, next I've got something really interesting that happened today. So there was a swap for RPL to Ether on Uniswap from 11,572 RPL was swapped for 235 ETH on Uniswap. But what was interesting was that this came from Jared from Subway. For those of you who have been following Ethereum news and like in the wider Ethereum ecosystem, you know that Jared from Subway is an MEV bot that's been sandwich attacking things like the Pepe token. And just yesterday in trading, Jasper was talking about how there's a divide between the price of RPL on Binance compared to Uniswap version 3, and he thought it was interesting that people were not kind of like arbing that difference. Well, it seems like Jared from Subway heard what Jasper was saying and kind of like turned his MEV bot on for the RPL token. So here you can see that this Jared from Subway did an MEV attack, I guess if you want to call it MEV attack, front run this transaction to make some RPL for himself. And then this was on RocketScan's RPL page, where you can see that Jared was able to make about 1 ETH from that sandwiching that he did. I think the parties involved were KPT.eth and also this address over here 0xd98c blah 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 whatever. So I think that's kind of adds up to that 11,000 number, but I'm not exactly sure. But that was really interesting that Jared was able to do that, and he's turned it on. So he hasn't really done any more sandwich attacks since then. But yeah, Jared from Subway, welcome to Rocket Pool. Okay, let me get back to Discord here, and we've got some really interesting comments here from LongForWisdom. So LongForWisdom is a person who works with MakerDAO governance, and LongForWisdom says, not sure how welcome I am to jump into a random conversation here. It's the difference between power and authority. So this was a discussion that was happening around the team and how they can use how they can control PDAO governance under the current mechanisms, and how even though the PDAO community like kind of signals on Snapshot what they want done, it's the team who executes that on Ethereum. Does the transactions. Noshua says in the voting is signaling only, and the team has veto power for what is voted on, and vote results are enacted. So they can always say that we're not going to pass this change. That's not happened so far, of course, but it's possible technically, I guess. So LongForWisdom kind of jumped into the conversation. He said that I'm not sure how welcome I am to jump into random conversations here. It's the difference between power and authority. The power is centralized to the team. The authority is decentralized to the PDAO. As a state, this is better than having both being centralized, but it's worse than both being decentralized. So then LongForWisdom kind of shared some more wisdom here, which is really interesting. He says it's still pretty scary though. Like, why not a multi-sig over a regular wallet? I can't imagine being the owner of that ledger. Maybe there is some offline secret sharing thing. And then the David the sixth here says sure, and in practice it feels like it has led to a better system than we see elsewhere. I still have the Lido vote for self-limiting stuck in my head. As long as the team honors the division of powers set forth in these systems, it works pretty well. I see what folks are saying, that relying on the team to this is inferior to having it functioning in a decentralized fashion. Thanks for breaking it down a bit. And then I think, yeah, LongForWisdom here as well says, I can have opinions on this stuff for hours. The issue with a vote on self-limiting is that it's a tragedy of the commons. Sure, you can do the noble thing and self-limit, but someone is going to defect at some point. Lido immediately choosing to defect is a bad luck. They may have torpedoed the whole idea to everyone's detriment. The division of power and authority as it isn't good, because the authority is always under sufferance of the entity with the power. This works while the entity with the power's interests align with the authorities, as you say, but yeah, it's a valid criticism until the power is decentralized. It's also very possible to make things much worse by decentralizing too much power too quickly as well. It's not like it's trivial and obvious decision. So this was like a really nice discussion here. And then LongForWisdom kind of says, going on a brief tangent, Maker, there was a lot of concern initially about governance using the power to draw DAI from the surplus buffer. It's hard to say if it would have been better to wait longer. It might have been, but anyway, this is probably off topic for trading. And then people say there's nothing off topic for trading, and yeah, I think that's where the conversation kind of ends. But and then David says, what's the context for the Maker vote? How does it function compared to, I think, Rocket Pool? He says, it was a long time ago. I don't think there was ever a vote on using the buffer specifically. At the time I was creating processes to organizing governance at Maker. A consequence of those processes was that it would become more clear to people what Maker governance had the power to do. There was some pushback about what the Maker Foundation, which still existed at the time, would be happy to see voted on. Basically, is governance mature enough to handle budgetary allocation? With the answer eventually being, doesn't really matter if governance is ready, it needs to do it because we, the foundation, are dissolving ASAP. So yeah, that was a really interesting discussion that went back and forth, and you can go and kind of like read the details around it. But I really like that, like, this was kind of juxtaposed with all the stuff that's happening in the last couple of days. And according to this metric of power and authority, then Rocket Pool is kind of like halfway there, which is better than being 0% of the way there, but definitely not as good as being 100% of the way there. And finally, I'm going to finish with this tweet that I put out yesterday, saying I added the rocket and Saturn to my name to show I'm on the rocket to Saturn. The Rocket Pool's next major upgrade, estimated Q4 23. Who's coming with me? Add the emojis to your names and we can fly together. So I hope people have responded positively to this tweet, and people have started adding the rocket and Saturn to their names on Twitter. And I'm going to be like pushing this a little bit over the next few weeks, maybe months, and hope that we can get some hype for Saturn, because there's going to be some really exciting things coming in that upgrade. So thank you for watching and listening and being part of the Rocket Pool community. With technical issues today, like, this has taken way longer than it should have, but hey, I hope I can get the episode out soon for you all. But thank you all, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye.